Saludos y bienvenidos una vez más a Canciones Café, el podcast. Les saludan Carolina Vanessa y Ricardo Álvarez y hoy con nuestro invitado de lujo, Martin Merenyi, directo desde Hungría. Ricardo.
Sí. Tenemos el privilegio de tener a Martin Merenyi, un ingeniero de mezcla con el que trabajamos uno de los últimos temas de Canciones Café. Martin ha trabajado con muchísimas personas en el mundo, ¿verdad? Tiene una clientela internacional y tiene un talento y un gusto exquisito y queríamos entrevistarlo. Esta entrevista va a ser en inglés porque es el lenguaje común que tenemos. Pero a todos los interesados ¿verdad? en ver o en leerla en español, pueden acceder a través de la página de nosotros o a través del canal de YouTube y va a estar subtitulada la entrevista para que todos puedan, ¿verdad? Aprender algunos granitos, aprender y disfrutar de la entrevista con Martin. Así que vamos a cambiar a inglés ahora y esperamos que la disfruten. Martin. So great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Where are you? What's your location right now?
Right now, I'm in a really small town in Hungary, close to Austria.
Okay.
I can tell you the name, but it's difficult. It's Szombathely. Good luck.
Szombathely?
Yeah, okay, you're good.
It must be quite cold in there right now, right?
It is cold. It is around 0. We just had some snow.
Oh,
I don't like it. I would rather be where you are.
You're welcome anytime.
For anyone watching outside Puerto Rico, we are in the small island of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, so it's always summer in here.
Yeah, we currently have like basically a 5-hour difference with Martin, but he was kind enough to accommodate from his busy schedule to join us in the Canciones Café podcast. So we're going to be discussing several topics, part of Martin's experience and some tips and tricks on the mixing side. You know, the purpose of this podcast is both entertain and educate in production aspects, musical production aspects. So that's what we're targeting with the questions we have for you. So I think
a lot of people, if I may say something, a lot of people are dreaming of singing as a career, and they don't know the nuances of the business and how do I go about recording a song or something like that. So yes, at Café Canciones, the podcast, we're trying to enlighten people a little bit to follow their dreams also.
Cool.
Yeah, and also now that you mentioned that, Vanessa, what the world has changed, right? In the last 10, 20 years, the way people work has changed. And I know the way you work, it's in the new standards, right? Like you can work anywhere and do a lot of jobs for people, whether in Hungary or London or any other place, if you wish to, at least to some extent. And I think that's something really cool that we can speak a little bit about later.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I mean, quickly, I think the reality of it is not quite that easy. So there are some requirements that I think that I like to have my speakers and certain acoustics that do limit me in terms of how much I can, for instance, mix or master just from a hotel room, of course. So on good, really big projects that are important to me, I would not want to do them on headphones because there's still a difference between that and working in a decent room with decent speakers. But it is true that I see many professionals who have, Grammys and platinum records admitting later on that they mixed something on a plane with headphones and it still worked. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't want to say names, but they are really, really high up there. So it does happen.
Well, okay, we'd like to start from the beginning because we don't know much about you. When and how did you come about this urge to produce music, to follow this career?
Wow, I was 15 actually. I was 15 when I started playing guitar with a friend of mine, and that led to me buying my own guitar, then starting a band here in Hungary. I was in high school. And we started gigging. We had some concerts. We did quite okay on some talent contests. We weren't amazing by any way, but you know, but we did quite well. It was a lot of fun for a few years. Then
A lot of
we
competition there.
quite a lot, actually. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The Hungarian music scene is quite competitive. There's a lot of music out here. Yes, we do a lot of Latin influenced music, actually. So if you came here, if you listen to Hungarian music, you would say that is our rhythm. You stole that from us, or those melodies, those are also from us. But also a lot of reggae influence, a lot of jazzy, bluesy influence. So we are quite a melting pot of musical genres. But if you hear something Hungarian, there is usually something very distinctively Hungarian about it. Now, we were the opposite. We wanted to be as American as possible. So we were basically Metallica meets My Chemical Romance to some extent.
Okay.
And that's what we did. Then in a really small studio not far away from here, we recorded an EP, and I was helping out a little bit and I liked the process. Then I think a year later, we recorded an album there. And by that time, I was already a bit more invested in the whole recording process. I did a lot of reading, a lot of research. I think I was 18 years by that time. And then when I turned 19, there was a question, okay, my parents wanted me to get a degree. And I was actually studying in high school, I was studying gastronomy. So the plan for me was to become a hotel director. But once I picked up that guitar, there was absolutely no way that I would put on a tie and a suit and work in a hotel. That was just never going to happen ever. So I told them, okay, look, study, yes, but I want to become a music producer. Like, I want to work with music. And so I went to Vienna, where I started doing my sound engineering degree. Wow. And from then I did a lot, and I did a lot of everything. Basically, I worked in events in hotels. I did live sound. I did festivals, concerts, corporate events, gala events, weddings.
But as a band,
as a sound engineer. No, sorry. Oh. So with 19, the band stopped basically because I moved to Vienna, and we knew we weren't going anywhere. And as a hobby to keep it up, I would have loved to, but it wasn't possible with my traveling schedule to Vienna and then back home. We were rehearsing in yet another town that is an hour away from here, so it was a bit too much. Okay. So that didn't work. And I felt myself being more comfortable on the other side of the soundproof glass, to be honest. Like, I love being on stage. I would still love to sing and play guitar on stage, don't get me wrong. But my knowledge, my understanding is much better on the other side. I'm not a great singer, I'm not a great guitarist, but I'm a much better sound engineer, I think.
So as part of your background, did you have musical lessons while growing up, or guitar lessons, or did you learn by yourself?
I had 3 guitar lessons, I think. Yeah. And then I said, okay, this is too slow, this is too boring. And then I think a month 2 months later, I went back and was like, look, I learned the entire American Idiot album in 2 months and I can play it. And you wanted me to play like Hungarian folklore songs. Like, come on. That's not how it works, man. That's not rock and roll.
That sounds familiar. I did take some classical guitar. It's how you usually start off, right? And I was like 1 year in or something, and it was not that interesting to me. I was already writing songs. I wrote songs before I could play an instrument. So songwriting is what actually led me to start learning instruments like guitar and piano. But 1 year in, after those courses, it was like very slow. I wasn't practicing much. And my brother does play guitar as well. So I went to his apartment one day, and he taught me the 4 basic chords, right? And I think with a Beatles song or something, and from that point on, like, everything changed, and then I started building progressions, and that's when the fun started, and I got the hang of it.
Yeah, it's the same. I just learned because I loved it so much, and I learned a lot much faster than going to classes. But that said, a few years later, then I think when I was 21, 22, I did take a 1-year course in Edinburgh in popular music. So I learned a bit more about sheet music, so actually, notes, writing down and reading and transposing and all that. And also more in-depth guitar lessons, which helped my skills a little bit. And I did my first production there as well, an album production for another band. So that was really fun and very useful, of course, but that was nearly 10 years ago. So my guitar skills have faded quite a bit since then, I would say.
And that was after your sound engineering degree that you went into?
Yeah, so the story is this, very quickly. I did a 1-year diploma in Vienna. Then with that diploma, I went to Berlin to work in hotels, but on the events side of things. So I did sound on a lot of events, gala events. I met Bill Gates, Cristiano Ronaldo, and all these people. Then I went to Edinburgh to do this 1-year music degree kind of thing, diploma, really. It was more for fun and education. Like, I don't care about the actual paper because this business, we will never show up in a studio. It's like, look, I have a paper, can I have a job? That's just never gonna happen. And then after that, I moved to London, where I did my bachelor in audio production. And then quite a few years later, actually 3 years ago, I did a master's degree in acoustics and acoustic engineering.
Right. And we want to go back to that later.
Yeah, sure.
I know you have some good insights there. So going a bit deeper into the process, right, of getting a song ready. What do you expect to receive from the producer or the artist, whatever the case may be? How do you expect these tracks to come in, or in general, what guidelines do you expect? What's like the ideal scenario for you as a mix engineer to get a job and get into it?
Yes. So I first and foremost appreciate communication as much as possible. I appreciate a really clear vision from the artist, both in terms of sound, but also in terms of what has been produced already. So I like it when sounds are locked in and they make sense, of course. So let's assume that we have a good production. Okay, what does that mean? I like to hear there's purpose, there is intention in the decisions that have been made before the files come to me. And that can be anything from what snare sample has been chosen to how a guitar or what guitar was recorded in a particular song, whether it's a Stratocaster or Les Paul, which fits better. Of course, the technical things like labeling and good editing, that should be a given, I would say. I mean, that's the most basic thing you can do, that you remove noise and you label the tracks so I know, okay, this is a guitar, I don't have to sort through them for hours, which did happen many times.
I was gonna...
Audio 1, Audio 2, Audio 3, Audio 4, and then there's 80 of these. Like, okay, thank you.
I was gonna stop you right there. Like, what's the percentage of jobs that you actually get that are in good shape in terms of that pre-work?
That sounds like a puzzle.
That's a puzzle, yeah. I would say lately I've been very lucky. I think there has been a continuous shift, fortunately, in the last 5 to 6 years that I've been mixing professionally. So of course, in the beginning, I took on every job that I can. So then the variety was a bit different. Now it's quite consistent, I would say. I still get the occasional production where I struggle making sense of the song. You know, I don't know what is the essence of the song. What is this? What am I meant to hear? What are we doing here? What's the point of this song? But many times I do get really well-prepared music, well-prepared files, and also well-produced and well-composed music, of course.
Okay, as someone that doesn't know much or anything about sound mixing, what is the purpose of the sound mixer? I mean, what do you do apart from the producer of the song, the artist per se? Like, what's the job of the sound mixer?
Yes, so I take the ingredients that you have bought in Tesco or Walmart or whatever supermarket you have and combine them into a final dish that tastes good, or in our case, sounds good. So that's basically what I do. You go into the studio with a song that you have composed, you record everything. Those are the ingredients, ideally with a purpose. And then I will make sure to work on the presentation of those ingredients. so they sound good. So I take in your case, I think it was 92 tracks, I think, maybe a bit less. And I deliver out of those 92 tracks, a stereo track consisting of a right and a left channel that has all of the information of these 92 tracks inside of it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
It's interesting and challenging, right?
Yeah, that's why I love it. Because what I love about mixing, if I may quickly, that it is equally creative as it is technical. So I don't like being only creative. I don't like being only technical. I like a bit of both, and this is the perfect challenge for me every time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of went a bit into this with your previous statements, but just to emphasize how important it is for you to get into the emotional context of the song in order to do your job.
Quite important, I would say. I think a song that speaks to me emotionally it's hard to say, because to me, the songs that I like them. Therefore, to me, they sound better. But I have never had a client complain that, oh, Martin, maybe you don't like my song, so the mix doesn't sound good. So everything I deliver usually seems to sound good, at least according to the feedback I get. So
I guess you always do your job. But
I always do my job.
But maybe it's easier.
It's definitely easier, yes. And to be honest, I do reject certain projects that are just way out of my zone, I would say. You know, if I really don't like the music, then I'm not the right person for that, because I want to be invested. I want to get invested in the music that I work on, you know.
Yeah, that's really important.
Well, that's fair. You'd be fairer to the project per se if you like it and are invested in it.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would like to share a bit of the latest song that Martin mixed for us, which is Entre tu sombra y tu alma, featuring Jose Clas. So let's just hear part of the song here.
No sabes cuántas veces me seduce tu mirada, aún sin verme. No sabes cuántas noches he vuelto loca mi almohada por no tenerte aquí, acariciando mi ensueño, reviviendo mis ansias de estar entre tus brazos, entre tu sombra y tu alma, y navegar entre el silencio y la pureza de tu amor, entre tus besos.
It still puts a smile on my face. It's good.
So beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love the nuances, like the chords. I don't know. They sound like getting closer
swells,
to you. And oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
And that's part of what Martin did, actually. So why don't you talk to us a bit about mixing Entre tu sombra y tu alma?
Anything in particular, or just in general?
In general, yeah.
Quite a broad thing. Yeah, I mean, it was a challenging song to mix because, I mean, okay, just so the audience understands, we have 80 to 19 tracks here. That means 80 to 90 ingredients that have to make sense in the end. So it's a lot going on. We have a lot of instruments playing at the same time, complete drum kit, including electronic and acoustic drums, cinematic drums, a whole orchestra, not exactly the smallest instrument there is, then piano, and then the vocals on top, of course. So to me, when I heard it, it was, yeah, you know, every time I receive a song, I first have to make clear, okay, what is the song about? And here, through conversations with you, of course, it was established that the strings play a very important role. Then, of course, the beat, the rhythm is very important in any music these days, or always, I would say. And then the vocals. So it was clear that we had three heroes of the song that have to shine from the very beginning to the very end. And then the rest is kind of spices, you know, the icing on the cake around it. And that's the way it was arranged. Of course, there was a little bit of playing between the piano and other elements where the piano became the hero for a shorter term. I'm looking up because I have the project in front of me, so I can see what I'm talking about. I absolutely loved mixing the orchestra. I love working with strings, and I love working with strings that are well recorded and professionally done. I work on soundtracks. I love working on cinematic and movie soundtracks as well. So I really enjoy this aspect of this song.
Just to provide a bit of perspective for whomever is listening, the strings for this song were recorded by the Budapest Art Orchestra in Budapest, in the East recording studios. So those are the tracks that Martin is referring to.
Yes. And then, to me, the dynamics of the mix were very important. I knew from the beginning that it would be a song that develops, that starts out very intimate, but leads up to a very explosive finish. So that was something I had to continuously keep in mind, that involves everything from volume to panning to the width. The mix becomes deeper, wider, louder as it progresses. It was very clear to me from the beginning that I would have to do a lot of automation to really emphasize, as you said earlier, the swells, these little emotional bits. And that was indeed something that I automated in on the volume faders, kind of halfway or two-thirds into the mixing process. And of course, the vocal had to be the hero in the end. So I had to be very careful to use the right kind and the right amount of processing on it to not make it sound artificial, but also make it stand out and sit on top of the mix in the end.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you specifically about your approach for the vocal, because when Josue and I and again Josue Parrilla was the co-producer of this song along with me, and he did most of the production work and the arrangement. The beautiful strings arrangement and the percussion stuff. And one of the first things we noticed when we got the first draft of the mix was the clarity of the voice, of the vocal. We're not used to that, at least not in the first revision. You get the vocal to some point, but there's always some specific portions that it kind of gets hidden, and we know that it would be a challenge against this huge stack of strings as well. However, even from the first draft that we received from you, there was like from the beginning to the end, the voice was there, the vocal was there. So cool. I wanted you to speak a bit about your approach to getting it there.
There is quite a bit of secret sauce going into that, or not secret, but magic sauce. So what I think most people, or many engineers, don't do on vocals is looking after resonances which happen. And for me, that's a huge part. And that's a natural occurrence in our organ, in our instrument, which is the voice box. We all have particular whistles and resonances in our voice, which are a natural part of it, but are not the part that we want to hear. So we want to hear the body of the sound, we want to hear the essence of the sound, but these resonances, while they are a natural part of our organ, of our instrument, they are actually not that pleasant to have. And I hear these in popular songs. I was listening to Adele yesterday. There's a horrible resonance throughout most of her songs. Green Day, also horrible, 3.1 kilohertz. And what else was I listening to? Can't remember, but these are usually there, and for me it's very important to manage these, not completely eliminate them, but manage them. So I use a lot of dynamic processing, which only engage when these resonances become too loud. I have two of these going on in this particular voice at 5,000 hertz and 5,700 hertz, which then probably means there's an octave below as well, but that wasn't a problem. And then I kept it quite simple, to be honest, just really simple management of EQ, getting rid of problematic things, then applying quite a significant amount of compression to make sure it's steady. That's before automation. For that, I used an LA2A here, and I used a really, really mellow EQ to boost a little bit of the presence on it. I did that before compression, which is very important for me, I think. Then came these dynamic processors to get rid of the resonances, which now, because of the EQ and because of the compression, became amplified. So you don't hear them when you have a conversation with a person, but once EQ and compression come into play, these usually become very loud. So after compression, I got rid of these, de-esser, and the multiband.
Was that using a dynamic EQ?
Yes, dynamic EQ. I use the Brainworks one because that's the one I have, but most of them will do the job really. And then this was the basics. So I don't usually go and say, okay, I apply all of these things. It's usually a step-by-step process. Like, okay, let's continue mixing. Let's see what other problems come up. And then I fix problems when they become relevant enough. So I never do something like, okay, I put all of these on there because I want to use as little processing as I can get away with, but I will use as much as I have to get to the results that I want. So this is a fine balance. So yeah, sometimes it's more, sometimes less, but I can tell you that in your mix, there are tracks that have nothing on it, like literally nothing. Yeah, there's quite a few of them. But then of course, everything goes into the master bus where there is also some stuff going on in the end. So yeah.
Even in the master bus, do you tend to use like do you have a recipe for the master bus which you turn on or turn off but they're always there, or even there you choose for the specific song what do you want there?
No, I have a preset, not a preset, but I have a template for mixing. This is developing. I'm on version 20 now. Yeah. And there is a lot of A/B options in there. So nothing is set in stone, and I never just use something just because it's there. But it always starts with either an SSL or a Neve master bus kind of analog channel emulation. Because what many people don't, well, no one knows yet. I started out on analog consoles. So I started mixing actually on Neve and SSL and API and all of these consoles. And it's very different from the approach perspective. From sonically, I think we're getting really close to it. So I'm now confident to say that the quality is nearly the same, I would say. And I think the benefits that we get in terms of flexibility and being able to do recalls and really quick revisions, by now, I think they outweighed the positives of analog studios. Whereas, this, what we did with, we did 5 revisions. So we went to version 6. That would have taken much, much, much longer. It would have been a much more complicated process. But anyway, master bus, I have that then into a really precise digital corrective EQ where I do really small things that might still stick out. Because what happens is when you have, let's just other song, 5 guitars, violin, synthesizer, they all play in the same range. There's often buildups happening, especially around 1K, 2K, 500 hertz, 3K that you might want to manage in the end. Then I have a really broad, really musical EQ to add the high end shine and a little bit of the low end bottom. I didn't need the low end bottom here actually. Then a master bus compressor, 2 decibels maximum. And people out there, compression is your enemy. It's not your friend. As little as possible, but as much as you need. And it's usually less. You need less usually than what you think you need. Then the Slate Digital FGX, I only use the dynamic perception knob because it's amazing. I don't know what it does. No one knows. I don't even think Steven Slate knows, but it's awesome. And I really like it.
I think they have not released the second version because they might damage it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
A lot of people is like, when are you going to release the update for this plugin? But
yeah,
they haven't released it yet.
It doesn't need one. I mean, I don't like the limiter in it. I don't like the compressor in it, but that one knob is really magic. So that I do use in every mix. And then that's it. So there's quite a bit going on, but you would still recognize the mix without these elements, I would say.
Would you say you have like a personal sound seal with your songs? Because I was listening to some of the songs you have on your webpage, and for me that the swells you say, like I found that in quite a few of the songs. I love that. By the way, I'm a fan. So would you say that's kind of your sound seal or seal of quality or
Signature.
something? Signature, yeah.
I think that's a very interesting thing, because I had this conversation with someone else. But yeah, automation is something that a good mixer should do, and writing these little nuances that are the essence of emotion. So the swells in this one, a little rise before the chorus, or a fast fade out after a bridge, or whatever it is. I think these are very important. My mixes are very dynamic from section to section as well. I play a lot with having the verse a bit narrower, then the chorus a bit louder and wider, etc. Also wet, dry. So I play with contrasts a lot. I think most good engineers will do that. I do that quite consciously. I do that as much as I can. So really dry vocal followed by a vocal with a big reverb. You know, these things add a lot of excitement, I think, to the music. And regarding sound signature, it's very interesting, because I think that the sonic signature of a mixer is essentially just a coincidence. It's a combination of what that engineer prefers, what that engineer likes, what that engineer hears through their monitoring, which could be anything, you know, the room that person works in, and then the tools that they are using, which could be, again, just preference or whatever was available. So you know, Chris Lord-Alge's mixes are set to be really bright and really punchy, but maybe for him they are not even bright enough, because his hearing might be different, his gear might be different. We don't know how he perceives music. And in my acoustics course, we learned that if someone played back a recording of the inside of your ear into my ear, I would not be able to make sense of it.
Oh, wow.
That's a test that has been done. So the way you hear something is completely unique to you and would not make sense to any other person in the world. So yeah, maybe I think there is a lucky element in it as well, whether someone can become a great mixer, because someone's ears might just not be suitable for a wider audience. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Does that pose a problem for you when you go to a concert or something? Like, are you able to enjoy it, or are you like analyzing all the sound elements? I mean, as an actress, I go to a theater play and I try not to be, you know, I don't know, entertained by the technical aspects of it. But
well, on a concert, I will usually have a few beers and then my mind goes quiet, so that's good.
That helps.
But when I listen to music, it's true. When I listen to music, I cannot stop analyzing it. I enjoy that to some extent, you know, listening to little production elements and little beautiful things that are hidden in there, maybe.
You can always learn.
So it's not just your livelihood, it's your passion. So that's
it is my passion. It is my passion as well. So I don't mind it. There are sometimes. So I don't listen to a lot of new music because of this. So when I travel, when I'm in the car, when I'm on the plane, I listen to usually the same music that I've been listening to for the last 10 years, basically. Every now and then I might buy a new record because I really like it. And then I analyze it for 2 weeks and then I can relax, you know, and then I can enjoy it on the plane. Yeah,
that's good.
But I wouldn't want to be overloaded with new sensory information while I'm driving, you know, or trying to relax on the plane.
Because you get so many hours of new music anyway every week. So
that's true. That's true. And I have to be honest, I very rarely listen to music because I am listening to music whether I like it or not for often, you know, 10 to 12 hours a day. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Also, something really interesting. I don't know if maybe you can throw in there a couple of tips and tricks for mixing engineers or people who are you know, getting in their feet wet into these areas of production. Your turnaround is really quick. You're really efficient at what you do, and also that's not that common. I mean, yeah, mixing engineers usually, you know, you'll get a job done within a few days, right? But your turnaround, both for the first revision and subsequent revisions was really fast. And maybe you have some way of working that helps you in that, or I don't know. What can you tell us about that?
I think part of that is experience. So and my really lucky position to be in a studio where I know that what I hear is what will other people hear as well, so that it's good. I know my speakers are accurate. I know my room is very good. So that's a really big element. I'm not second guessing anything. When I make an adjustment, I know it's good or bad. That's definitely a very big part of it. And also because I've been doing this professionally for 5-6 years, I would say, but learning and doing it for nearly 10 years, I would say. I have made every mistake there is, and I still make mistakes, but I learned which ones to avoid and what to do instead, I would say. And so, yeah, it's a part of knowing. So when I start a song, I already know what I want it to sound like. That's how, whatever song I get, I know, okay, this is where I want it to go. And then it's just a matter of executing that. And because I have a routine in this, because I have, mixed quite a few songs, I know what to do, what to use. I don't play around with new plugins or anything. Only when I have some downtime, I'll experiment with new plugins and then maybe change my mix template or my routine a little bit. But I'm using the same things as I used last year or 2 years ago nearly. So I know what works, I know what does what, I know what to reach for when I have a problem. It's like, when you're building a house or you're fixing your pipes in your house, you know which tool to use, and then that's it.
Right.
You don't try to use a hammer on I don't know, your water tap or a piece of bread,
So on your way to the final product, you kind of make a blend of whatever guidelines the producer or the artist sent you and what you listened the first time you hit play on the song, right?
No. So first I talk to the artist and I get their ideas, of course, and then I listen and say, okay, so considering the artist's ideas, this is what I can and what I want to do with the mix, of course. Yeah, I'm not just doing my thing, of course.
Esperamos que estén disfrutando de esta entrevista con Martin Merenyi, la cual continuaremos en el próximo episodio de Canciones Café, el podcast. Así que, pendientes.